Sup guys, it's Alex here and welcome to the December 15th edition of the Bracketology update. And before we get into the Bracketology update itself, I just want to say prayers up for KEYONTAE Johnson, man. The SEC Player of the Year last year playing for Florida collapsed on the court against Florida State on Saturday. Last thing I've heard is that he was in critical but stable condition and was able to recognize some basic commands or something. I think he was able to get out of a medically induced coma, but I mean, it's still a very scary situation right now. Still a lot of progress to be made, but prayers up to him. Hopefully he is able to recover. No rush at all to get back to the basketball court, and just take all the time he needs to get better and be able to recover from this. Don't know exactly what led to it, but I don't need to know. All I need to know is that KEYONTAE Johnson recovers, man. So prayers up to him. If you're a Florida fan, I feel for you, but I mean, it's just a scary situation. But anyway, let's go and get into the bracketology here. We now have Iowa, rightfully so, up to a 1 seed. Don't know why they weren't a 1 seed throughout the course of the past couple of weeks, but they have retained the 1 seed here with obtained the number 1 seed with Luka Garza, just further cementing his status as the Player of the Year favorite. Had a great 2 games over the past week. And then over there in Region 1, we have Florida down to an 8, Syracuse up to a 9, Michigan looking like they're getting some more respect there as a 5 seed, then UC Santa Barbara new to the field as a 15. Then over here in Region 2, we have Arizona State falling to an 8 after losing to San Diego State, who is now up to a 5 there. And then LSU falling down to a 9, Georgia State falling down to a 14, Oklahoma State with Cade Cunningham new to the field. I think it was because Joe Lunardi had thought that Oklahoma State was ineligible to be in the tournament, but they had appealed like the ineligibility, and for some reason, like the rules with the NCAA selection committee is that if you appeal it, you're eligible. I don't really know what the situation is on that, but somehow Oklahoma State has found themselves back to being eligible. And then Colgate is up to a 15. Then over there in Region 3, we have St. Peter's new to the field as a 16. Arkansas continuing their great run to start the season up to an 8. Richmond down to a 9. Rutgers up to a 5. Marquette, who just beat Creighton last night in a fantastic win for them, will be in the playing game against Alabama. Florida State is up to a 4. North Carolina down to a 6. Maryland down to an 11. Liberty up to a 14. A lot of movement over here. Then we have Missouri getting a huge win over Illinois over the past week, moving up to a 7. Oklahoma falling down to a 10. Michigan State down to a 2. And then Hofstra up to a 15. And then over there in Region 4, Iowa now up to a 1, as I mentioned. Stephen F. Austin falling down to a 16. Xavier up to a 9. They got a big win over Cincinnati. Duke down to a 5 with Mike Krzyzewski. I mean, I don't want to play into the narrative that he's just frustrated with losing games and doesn't want to play, but he's using COVID-19 as an excuse. I don't really know what's going on with that, but either way, they are now down to a 5 after losing to Illinois and Michigan State. And I think they lost to somebody else. I'm not entirely sure on that. Don't quote me on it. But anyway, Winthrop up to a 13. Ohio State down to a 6. Tennessee up to a 3. Clemson up to a 7. And then Toledo down to a 15. And then I haven't talked about it so far, but you guys knew it was coming. Guess who is not in the tournament as of right now? That's right. It is Kentucky down there in the first 4 out. Man, I don't know what is going on with our program right now. We had a fantastic second half against Notre Dame, but I mean, that was just one half. In the first half, we were absolutely awful, down 48-26 to Notre Dame at home. I mean, I don't know what's going on. We are now 1-4, deservedly so outside of the tournament picture. We do not look like a tournament team at all right now, so we need some improvements and we need them fast. Anyway, last 4 byes are Stanford, Maryland, NC State, and Purdue. Last 4 in are USC, Virginia Tech, Marquette, Alabama. First 4 out are Kentucky, Arizona, Minnesota, and Penn State. And then the next 4 out are SMU, Seton Hall, Providence, and Ole Miss. So, I mean, crazy look here at the bracketology. Hopefully Kentucky's able to string together some wins. It's not looking like we'll be able to get it in these next 2 games against UCLA, which we could win, and then Louisville, which we most likely will not be winning. I'm not gonna get my hopes up for that rivalry win. But anyway, let's go and take a look here with my tournament predictions based off of this bracketology. If you guys have been following these videos, you know that I have to do it with an Excel-based bracket now because Brackify went down. Still trying to figure out a way to do it look more visually appealing than having to do it in Microsoft Excel. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into these predictions. Up first, we'll have Gonzaga obviously being the winner of Mount St. Mary's and Norfolk State. Florida, I think, will be able to beat Syracuse here. I'm assuming that KEYONTAE Johnson will be back by the time the tournament comes. I mean, that's a very I don't know what you would say to describe it, a very not sturdy assumption that he'll be back. Obviously no rush for him to get back. but I think they will be able to beat Syracuse there. Michigan, I think, will be able to beat Furman. Texas Tech will hold off to beat Vermont. Louisville, I think, can get the victory there over Purdue. Illinois will be able to beat Murray State. Then we have, you know what, I'm going to go with UConn here, pulling off the upset over Oregon. Haven't really been too impressed with Oregon from what I've seen over the course of the season. I think they ended up losing to Missouri, which kicked off Missouri's good start to the season. And then we'll have Kansas there beating UC Santa Barbara. Then for a spot in the Sweet 16, we will have Gonzaga moving on here past Florida. Michigan, I think, can get the 5-over-4 upset over Texas Tech. Then we'll have Illinois with Ayodo Sumu moving on past Louisville. Kansas, I think, will be able to beat UConn there. That shouldn't be too hard for Kansas. I can't remember what his name is. I'm pretty sure it's Jalen Wilson for Kansas. Has been looking really impressive here to start the season. I think I called him Jalen Green in last week's bracketology, but it is Jalen Wilson. I apologize for that. But then for a spot in the Elite Eight, we will have Gonzaga here moving on past Michigan. Then I'm going to go with an upset here. I'm going to go with Illinois over Kansas. Illinois has been struggling in these last couple of games. They beat Ohio by 1, and then they end up losing to Missouri. But I am a believer in the Fighting Illini, and I think they'll fight to a victory there over Kansas. But then they'll meet the roadblock that is Gonzaga in the Elite Eight, and Gonzaga will move on to the Final Four. So then over here in Region 2, we have Baylor beating the winner of Texas Southern and Southern Utah. Then we're going to have Remy Martin and Arizona State moving on past LSU. Then I'm going to go with an upset here. I know I was talking great about San Diego State, and I love San Diego State right there. If they were a 4 seed or maybe even a 5 seed against anybody else, I probably would have picked them. But Western Kentucky has been looking great over these last couple of games. They play Rhode Island this weekend. They should be looking for I think they beat Rhode Island this past weekend, and now they're going to be facing Alabama. And as I'm recording this video, I just got an update saying that KEYONTAE Johnson is stable. His parents saying that he is in stable condition from Bleacher Report. So I'm so happy to hear that news out of the critical state into stable state. Congratulations to him. Still prayers up, though. There's still a long way back to recovery, or a long road back to recovery, but that is great news to hear, kind of a mid-break in the video. But then I do think that Western Kentucky would be able to beat San Diego State there in a 12-over-5 upset. Then we have New Mexico State moving on here, 13-over-4. You guys know I am not a believer in Virginia. I'm going to go with New Mexico State pulling off the upset there. Then we have Indiana beating NC State, Wisconsin being able to hold off there against Georgia State, UCLA falling to Oklahoma State. I really like Oklahoma State this year. Hopefully they're going to be eligible, so we do get to see Cade Cunningham in the NCAA tournament. And then Houston moving on here past Colgate. Then for a spot in the Sweet 16, we will have Baylor here moving on past Remy Martin and Arizona State. Western Kentucky moving on to the Sweet 16 over New Mexico State. Wisconsin here moving on past Indiana, and then Houston moving on past Oklahoma State. So then for a spot in the Elite Eight, we will have Baylor versus Houston, which would be a fantastic matchup to see. Houston's looking really good. They're quietly a 2 seed right there, but I love watching them play, especially Quentin Grimes. And then for a spot in the Final Four, I am going to have to go with Baylor, though they're looking fantastic over the course of the season so far. I think they had to pause team activities because of a positive test or something like that. I'm not too sure what happened with that. But anyway, I have them as a Final Four team. So then over here, if we go to the Region 3, Villanova will move on past St. Peter's. Arkansas, I think, will be able to hold off there against Richmond. Then I'm going to go with an upset pick here and go with Marquette beating Alabama and then beating Rutgers. Another 12-over-5 classic upset there. And then Florida State here moving on past South Dakota State. Maryland, I think, will fall to North Carolina. I was trying to trick you guys a little bit there. Then Texas will hold off to beat Liberty. Then Missouri will be able to beat Oklahoma, and then Michigan State will beat Hofstra. Then for a spot in the Sweet 16, we got Villanova moving on past Arkansas. Florida State moving on past Marquette. Then in a rematch of the Maui Invitational where Texas hit that crazy buzzer beater to beat North Carolina, I am going to go with Texas winning again here in the 3-over-6. Then I'm going to go with an upset pick here. I'm going to go with Missouri. Why not roll with the hot team right now? We got to have a couple big upsets in there. I'm going to go with Missouri pulling off the huge upset there over Michigan State. But then for a spot in the Elite Eight, I'm going to go with Villanova here moving on past Florida State. Then Texas holding off there against Missouri. And then we are going to have Texas moving on to the Final Four, pulling off the 3-over-1 there. Villanova has had some close calls so far this season, and I think they can get the victory there over Villanova. So then if we go over here to Region 4, we're going to have Iowa beat Stephen F. Austin. St. Louis, I think, can hold off against Xavier. Why not have fun with it? Why not go with Loyola Chicago beating Duke right there? I mean, Duke would probably end up winning that matchup, but upsets always happen in the tournament. Duke has been looking like Kentucky, not as bad as Kentucky, but they just have no offensive identity right now, and I think Loyola Chicago could take advantage of it. Then we're going to have Creighton here moving on past Winthrop. Ohio State moving on past the winner of USC and Virginia Tech, which I think would be Virginia Tech. I'm going to go with Tennessee here, moving on past Wright State. Stanford upsetting Clemson. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go back. I'm going to walk back those comments. I'm going to go with Clemson here, moving on past Stanford as the 7/10. And West Virginia here, moving on past Toledo. Then for a spot in the Sweet 16, we will have Iowa beating St. Louis. Creighton holding off against Loyola Chicago, the Ramblers, maybe pulling off an upset there, but I am going to go with Creighton. Then we are going to go with an upset here and go with Ohio State over Tennessee. Not too impressed with what I've seen from Tennessee so far, so I like Ohio State moving on there. And then West Virginia will hold off there against Clemson. Then we're going to go with Luka Garza and Iowa here, moving on past Creighton. Then why not keep the upsets going? Why not go with Ohio State up to the Elite Eight? I have been selling them short for years and years and years, but I will have them here moving on to the Elite Eight in this bracketology as the 6th seed. But then they will fall short to their conference foe in Iowa, who is just a freight train right now, which sets up a Final Four of Gonzaga versus Iowa. That would be a fantastic game to see, and I'm going to go with Iowa. Gonzaga just can't win the big one in the tournament championship, so I'm going to go with the player of the year and just a really good-looking team right now in Iowa. And then we're going to have Baylor moving on here past Texas. Texas Cinderella run as the 3 seed will come to an end there in their conference foe against Baylor, which sets up Iowa versus Baylor in the national championship, and I'm going to go with Scott Drew and Baylor winning it all. I think they were my first team that I had winning it all in the very first bracketology of this season, and I'm going to have them winning right now. I mean, I haven't been proven wrong so far. I'm pretty sure they haven't lost. I'm pretty sure they beat Illinois, but either way, I really like Baylor this season. I think they can win the national championship. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you did, and I will see you all later.